Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Force for Growth Show. I'm Ricardo.
I'm Michelle. We have Poonam Patel on today. Very excited to talk to her. She is the founder of Loop Studio and a Firewalker and a TEDx speaker, which I think is amazing. So we'll bring Poonam on and have a chat.
All right, here we go. Hi, Poonam.
Good morning.
Man, you are nice, bright, and shiny.
I have a skylight on top of us.
I love your unicorn behind you too. I love it. It's awesome.
Good eye, Michelle. Look at you, Michelle. I'm like, I didn't even notice it. You're like really in the details. You're like the unicorn back there. So, what is going on, Poonam? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, I met Ricardo at UPW last year, and I'm drinking his Kool-Aid. I've attended some of his North Texas Firewalker, right?
Yes.
North Texas Firewalker events, and I've met some really cool people there, and he invited me to do a TEDx talk and really encouraged me to do it. So I went down that path, and it was an incredible journey. And have done some amazing community service with him through what was it that we did in November? Baskets for Good. And, it's just amazing people and doing good and learning so much. And it's been great knowing you.
Yeah. It's been great knowing you. You're pretty awesome. You too, Michelle. Both of you are pretty awesome. And what ended up, I'll tell the story about the TEDx real quick, and then we'll move on. But Poonam hosted a little happy hour down in Dallas, and we went down there to meet with her, me and my wife, Jessie. And afterwards, we hung out for what it seemed like 30 minutes, but I think it was like 2 hours after the whole thing was over. We were just out there chilling on the patio, and then she just started telling us her story. And I was like, so captivated. I was very captivated by it. And so I was like, hey, we're doing this TEDx Pleasant Grove thing in January. You should apply to speak. You just put it out there. It's exactly what you told us just now. Just put it out there. And she did. And she ended up getting selected. And she was on the TEDx stage earlier this January for the inaugural TEDx Pleasant Grove event. So that was pretty awesome.
I have to say that's on my bucket list. Like someday I plan to be on the TEDx stage. But tell us a little bit about that experience, like how you chose your topic, just how that experience went for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was everything. It was amazing, and it was nerve-wracking, and there were moments of epiphanies, and then there were moments where I was so anxious and nervous. It's a huge responsibility. You're on the stage and you have these people's attention for a short moment in time, and you want to make the best of it. And the opportunity that I saw in it it's very rare that one can sit down and really think about their timeline, the experiences that they've been through, and really sit down and evaluate it and glean some meaning from it. And so I did exactly that. I had this responsibility. How do I come up with this topic? And so what I did was I sat down and I created a timeline, and I thought of like all my low points when I've hit rock bottom and all the high points, and that's kind of how I started weaving the story together, because it's like, okay, I only have one life that I've ever lived. How do I know if any of these things are relatable to other people? And so then I started reaching out to my mentors and asking them, hey, will you walk this path with me? And they were like, what does it entail? I said, I don't know. I've never done one. They were like, okay, sign me up.
That's awesome.
It was great. So I had reached out to some of my people who have supported me my entire life, like my undergrad professor. I had reached out to a professor from my grad school, some of my business coaches, And TEDx had actually assigned me a coach too. So I had a really good support group to just bounce ideas off and to reflect and have a soundboard. And it was incredible. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how to deliver and project and craft a story.
I love that. I love that you did the timeline. I have not heard anybody say that. I'm going to do that. Like that. That's such a great idea to really craft your story, is just sit down and do a timeline and look at your low points, your high points. And that's a great way to pull out and really even reflect back on how far you've come, what you've learned, things like that. I think that's a great exercise for people to do. I love that.
My recommendation is to make sure you have your favorite tub of ice cream, because there might be some traumatic realizations.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
That was a good question. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your TEDx topic. Obviously, we'll link down below, and you can find Poonam on YouTube, Poonam Patel, and put TEDx over there, TEDx Pleasant Grove. But just give us the brief 5,000-foot overview about your TEDx talk.
Gotcha. I wanted to correct. It's Urban Loop Studio.
Urban Loop Studio.
Urban Loop Studio.
Okay. I'll fix that.
Thank you. An aerial view. So I was trying to make the topic as relatable as possible. And one of the things that I think is a really important topic of discussion right now is all the gaps between people's understandings. You know, one of the big topics in my world has been generation gaps. You know, so here I am, this young aspiring architect with this energy and this ability to manipulate these software programs, and I have this amazing boss who's an amazing mentor, still hand drawing, and the efficiency there is like 66%. You know, and so there's this generation gap, and how do you communicate? And so there's this generation gap, and then being a first generation American, I love my mom and dad. At the same time, there's so much distance between our understandings. You know, they were born and raised in India and moved to the States when they were late 20s or early 30s. And here I was born and raised in America. My first language is actually Gujarati. It wasn't even English, even though I was born here. I went to ESL.
Nice.
You know, and so I was raised from a different culture. But then every time I left the front door of my house, I'm walking into a different world where the rules that I've learned under my parents' roof is different from the outside world. And so that contrast and understanding was a challenge. So not only is there a generation gap, there was a cultural gap for me. And as we all know, there's a distance in understanding with gender as well. You know, me being an assertive, outspoken, petite minority female, walking into an office of all these tall, white, elderly males. I walk in there with my sass. Good morning, everyone. What are we building today? You know, and it was just foreign to them because it's not a topic of sports. It's not, talking about what our scores were golfing the weekend before. It's more like, it's just a different conversation. And it's took me a while to figure out how to fit in. I have recently realized that I've had to compromise my femininity a little bit. And it expresses itself in different forms and ways in my relationships, in order to be able to survive in that environment. So gender gap, generational gap. So generational, cultural, and gender gap is kind of a bird's eye view of the topic, but in a way that is just telling that story, hitting those three high points through my experiences. When you think about it along the timeline of the highs and lows, I would say is an overview of the TEDx talk. And how you navigate those. That's how I navigated those.
Yeah. I love that. Because so many, even you've got those 3 gaps that you've had to deal with. Some of us have had to deal with 1, some of us 2, some of us 3. And so I think that's really interesting because so many of us deal with at least one of those gaps, most of us. I remember, I don't know how old you are, but I'm probably a lot older, but I went to college, 30 years ago. And I remember the instructor, one of my professors, teaching me that, how to deal with that gap with being a female in the business place. My background is accounting. And she's talked about those exact topics 30 years ago. The golfing, you need to learn sports. That's what she said. She said, you need to start watching football. You need to start watching baseball. You need to be able to have these conversations. I didn't, and I survived.
Cheers. I still don't know anything about football.
I don't know anything about football or baseball or any of it, but
big props to both of you ladies for not having to go down that route and still being successful in your respective field.
Yeah, I love what you said, Poonam, because you clearly figured out how to fit in those spaces without compromising who you are.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's a big deal. That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So for those just tuning in, we got Poonam Patel, founder of Urban Loop Studio, TEDx speaker, Firewalker, and just all around rock star. Just all around rock star. So engage in the conversation, listen, and get enthralled by her energy and her presence, because that's what I like when I have my conversations with Poonam. I love listening to her talk and her energy, her presence, and she brings it. So tune in and enjoy this conversation with us. And also go to YouTube and look her up and find her TEDx talk. So you're a Firewalker. You're also a Firewalker. Last year, you ended up at Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that experience. What got you there?
Last year, I was feeling a little bit stuck in my life. I was feeling a little bit frustrated, and I knew that there was more. I know that there's more that I want to accomplish, and I just felt that there was something weird there, like this weird funk that's just a hurdle. I don't know how many. And last year was all about prioritizing that and just crushing it. I don't care what I had to listen to, what I had to read, who I needed to meet. I was going to do it. And so what had happened was one of the many things that I was researching and diving into was Tony Robbins. And so it was a Friday night. I was by myself, and I turned on Netflix and I started watching I'm Not Your Guru. And within the first couple of minutes, I was like, oh, this is weird, like suicidal stuff. Like, I'm by myself. I don't know. Am I going to be depressed watching this? What's going to happen? But then I fought myself and I said, no, we're going to do things differently. So if you don't know what that is, just do the complete opposite of what you normally would do. So I sat there. I made myself sit there and I watched it for another 15 minutes. I got sucked in and watched it till the end, and I immediately went on Amazon and bought his book, Awaken the Giant Within. When I got that book, I got sucked in. I studied it like a Bible. If you look at my book, and I'm happy to grab it, it's like 10 feet away. It has tabs on it. It's highlighted. It's marked out. And from that moment, I realized, okay, wow, this has some of the pieces of the puzzle that I've been missing in my journey of where I'm trying to get, which is not 100% defined, by the way. I have an idea of where I want to go, but it really helped plug those things in. And then I found out that he was coming to Dallas. And I said, I have to go, because it's so easy. I don't have to book a ticket. I don't have to get a flight. I don't have to find people to go with me. I could just like pop in and pop out. And so then I was talking with 2 of my friends, and I was trying to get people to go with me, because it's kind of like weird going to something by yourself, but I've done it a few times where I couldn't find anybody to go with me to something, and I just went by myself. So I said, I have it in me. I'll just go. So after a lot of conversations back and forth, I was like, you know what? I'm going. if you girls want to come, you're welcome. And so then they started getting FOMO, and they were like, oh, where'd you get the tickets? Where'd you get the tickets? And then next thing you know, they were booked within the week. So we all went, and then I was like, this is, you know, when I started telling people about it, they were like, oh, Tony Robbins, like he's like a cult and blah, 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 and all these things. And I was like, okay, that's cool. You know, whatever. Not everything is 100% amazing and awesome. But even if I can get one piece of the puzzle, I'm good. And quite frankly, I'm going to still go, and I'm going to give it my all, and whatever, I'm going to be okay with whatever assessment I come back from it, from my own experience. I don't really care about what other people were naysaying. And so I went. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I thought to myself, okay, there has to be other people in Dallas from here. And so then I reached out on the Facebook group, and that's where I found Ricardo. And we were trying to get together a few times throughout the event, but the Wi-Fi was poor. But it was amazing because the very last day I got to say a quick hi, but I was so tired. And so, but I said, I know that I have to meet him. And so I was like climbing up the stadium stairs, you know, super tired. And I was like, hi, Ricardo, like super low energy. I was like, what is going on here?
It was Sunday. I remember that very vividly because I had to go up the stairs too. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. My feet.
Yeah, you're a little worn out that last day of BPW.
I'm gonna go meet Miss Poonam, and then that wasn't the start. After that, you went to Business Mastery.
Oh yeah, I signed up for Business Mastery. That was insane. That was
talking about business. I know this is a topic that's near and dear to Michelle's heart, so I know she's going to have some feedback on this and chime in with some more business. Let me rephrase that. Business questions as related to the ladies. I know that, and I'm just going to ask the broad business question. So tell us about Urban Loop Studio.
Wow. Okay.
What do you do?
So
let me ask you the Business Mastery question. What do you really do?
What do I really do? I am in the business of designing people's dream homes. So I got into architecture because it's such a humanitarian way of giving back to the community. You're providing shelter, you're providing safety, and on a basic level. But then you're also providing opportunities for, human beings. We spend a lot of time in buildings, and we have the rare opportunity to create these spaces that really help people tap into themselves. They're bring out joy and bring out peace. The perfect example is, a prison cell, or, your favorite spot in your house, and to really be able to design around people's lifestyles and help them support their lifestyle. So if people love to read, we like to design really nice reading nooks. Or if people like to socialize and entertain, we like to create gathering spaces that'll accommodate it, that are dual functioning sometimes. And so I have this rare opportunity to not only provide safety and shelter, but to really bring a lot of joy to people's lives. And I think people deserve that.
I love that. And you get to create, like that's what you do. You create, and creativity just provides so much fulfillment, I think. Question for you in that regard. What kinds of things, especially now that you've gone down the personal growth, journey, what kinds of things do you do that help you find out what a person, like Ricardo asked you, what do you really do? How do you find out what someone really wants whenever it comes to designing their home?
That is really hard, because some clients are in tune with themselves. They know what they like. They know where they want to go. They know what their goals are. It's actually a little bit of a self-discovery process in the beginning. I remember one of my clients, I was asking him all these questions, like, how do you like to spend your time? At what times of the days do you do these certain activities? He's like, you sound like my girlfriend. You keep asking me all these weird questions. I'm like...
It's very interesting because when I think, I'm a numbers person, and when I think of architecture and design, I never would even think that that's a component that until you started talking, I'm like, wow, you got to really know somebody when you're designing their home. And the fact that you take all those little intricate details into consideration is really cool.
It's phenomenal. Just hearing you talk and your passion, I'm just like, dude, I don't know if any other architects or designers talk like that, but if they don't, they need to get with the program.
Yeah, definitely. Like I would want you to design my home.
Exactly. Like these other designers. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just talked for 60 seconds on what you do. And I'm like, wow, that I would want you to design my home.
Honestly, if you're in any kind of
someday you will.
Honestly, if you're in any kind of business, you need to have that kind of passion.
Yeah. And that connection with people. It's important no matter what you're doing.
No matter what you're doing, you got to have that passion. And I felt it. I felt you talking. I'm like, wow. I'm like, how much money do I need to make next year in order to have Poonam build me a new house from the ground up?
It's a little bit like Cinderella's glass slipper, right? So there are actually some people out there who it's like prescriptive design, and for me, if I were to design a house for someone in the way that I would like, with the colors that I like, not everyone's like me. So it would be like a misfitting shoe in a way.
Mm-hmm. That's a great analogy.
Wow. I love that. I just have to say that your energy, your passion towards what you do is really coming through. And I love that we're able to highlight that and present that to the world. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ricardo's going to soak in it for a minute.
I do. I have to soak in it. I have to sit in it because I'm enjoying it, because I get to enjoy this in real time, right? Well, I'm enjoying it here in live right here. Yeah. And if I don't take a minute to just enjoy it, it's a waste of a moment. And I just enjoy it. I love your energy. And like Michelle says, we're both like, me and Michelle are going to be buying a house together. Michelle's family and our family are going to be buying a house together to just be able to have you come and design something for, like, I don't know. It's like, you're intoxicating. It's just intoxicating to hear people talk that are living their passion.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So what's next? What's next, Poonam? I know that's a broad question. That's a broad question. But what's next?
Well, but it's a little bit confidential.
Correct.
I have 2 amazing things happening right now. I'm not at the liberty to speak about it, though.
What can you talk about? Tell us in your personal life or anything else that you are able to talk about.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So I'm not able to talk about. Okay, so I'll beat around the bush, I guess.
Well, hold on. Let's not do that.
Don't get yourself in trouble.
Let's not do that. Let me ask you a different question. How did you have to redefine your business in the last couple of months? What did you have to change to do differently?
Yeah, so I feel like when I'm working with these clients, I've had amazing clients in my life. It's incredible. Like people who not only pay on time, but pay in full and pay in advance. My issues are, how do you cash this big check because of the limits on my bank account, which I think is very rare for my industry, my profession in this moment. People are struggling to find clients. There's this mindset of scarcity. But I guess what I feel like I could have a broader reach with my skill sets. So right now, although I have these amazing clients, I'm only serving, 2 people at a time, a husband and a wife, or a family at a time. And I feel like there's got to be more reach, more of an impact I can have. And so that's kind of landed me to this big question mark that I'm not unfortunately able to share with you guys right now. So that's how it's changed my business, Ricardo. And also too, this I'm exploring this concept of abundance. And Ricardo, I love his persistence in pounding this in, not pounding, but like encouraging me to come from my heart instead of in my head. And although being in my head has served me really well, I'm dedicated and committed to approaching life in a different way, which is coming from my heart. So moving forward, my focus will be exploring abundance and approaching life from my heart.
I love that. Abundance was my word of the year last year.
Really?
Yeah, it was. And it honestly, it was one of the hardest years of my life, but it was one of the most abundant. And it's not even abundance in the terms that most people would think of abundance. But whenever my focus, Tony talks about the triad, physiology, focus, and mind, language. When my focus every single day was on abundance, it's amazing the abundance it created in so many areas of my life. So I love that you're focusing on abundance. It's wonderful.
Wow, I'll have to get some tips from you offline.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
And it's not always about the money.
No, it's not. Yeah, I had the most abundant year, but it really had nothing to do with money. Mm-mm. Like it's amazing. When you're focused on abundance, I can't wait to see what happens.
I'm so excited. I have goosebumps.
It is amazing. And Michelle is definitely a great story of abundance and defining abundance of what it means to you.
Yeah. And the meaning for me completely changed.
It is. When you talk about being abundant, the first thing people think about is the monetary. And it's so much more than that. So much more than that. Yeah. And then what's amazing here is, if I'm not overstepping, is when you get the abundance in all these other areas in your life, that comes too.
It does. And it's that's something that you've kind of touched on, Poonam, a couple of times on this talk, is taking that first step, kind of like when you went to UPW. You like, no matter, or even sticking with watching I'm Not Your Guru, like, no, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch this. And it's when you step out of your comfort zone and you take that first step, it leads to the next and the next and the next. So you don't have to know what's coming next necessarily. You just have to be willing to step out there like you have done and look where it's led you and it's leading you now. I think it's beautiful.
Exactly. And that's a big lesson that you offer, Poonam, because if you had you would have every reason to get stuck in a little box. What you were talking about earlier, you had every reason to be put in a little box, the culture box, the gender box, the size box, whatever it is, we define our own box. You had every reason to allow yourself to be put in that box and settle.
Yeah. I could have been married to Mr. Flip-Flops.
We're not going to go into that because that's in the TEDx talk. So make sure you go and YouTube Poonam's TEDx talk to hear about Mr. Flip-Flops. But yes, you could have been married to Mr. Flip-Flops if you would have decided to settle and be confined to the little box that was, right? And you decided not to. You didn't allow yourself to be defined by your culture, your gender, whatever it may be. And that's an amazing story. And that's what I love to hear about. That's what I love to highlight. And that's what we want to present to the world.
Thank you for that perspective.
Yeah. Final words, Poonam. What would you say to a young female entrepreneur that is considering getting into business but has a limiting story about her gender, her culture, her age?
Wow, that a lot comes to mind. There's a lot of steps you have to take. If I had to put it in a nutshell, I would say you said little girls, right? Mm-hmm. I would say you have every reason to be confident. Find those reasons. Tune everyone else out. Once you get the strength from that confidence, be open-minded about trying new and different things so that you can learn what you like and what you don't like. And that, as Michelle mentioned earlier, will take you down a path of discovery of what your purpose is, what you like, what you find worth spending your time on, and watch that journey unfold. And from there, if you can bring value to people's lives and build a business around it, there's so much support out there for small businesses. There's no reason why you shouldn't do it.
Very well said.
Very well said.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Poonam.
Thank you for having me.
This will be uploaded to YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and all our podcast channels here shortly. To subscribe to the podcast and get more information, you can visit forceforgrowth.com and make sure you YouTube Miss Poonam Patel, TEDx speaker on YouTube, to hear her amazing TED Talk and hear about Mr. Flip-Flops. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll be back on Monday with the word of the week.
Bye.
Bye.